Well, good Monday morning, 7 o'clock, and welcome in to the Real Monica Adams Show, brought to you by our friends at Invita Health and Wellness. You know, I've got a lot of phone calls and emails and text talking about those of you that have been over to see our friends in Kirkwood and how much better your health is, inside and out, and that's what they're there for. So go say hi and tell Dr. Sarah and the staff that we sent you in. Again, thank you to Dr. Sarah and the entire staff at Invita Health and Wellness for being our title sponsor. Of course, if you know of someone that you want us to feature on this show, you know a business that aligns with our mission, please reach out to me, info@TheRealMonicaAdams.com. I'm loving all the ideas that you have when we're together on the mobile Monica shows, and then, of course, for those of you want in the blue chair. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about one of the biggest things that's going on in the news right now. And while I tell you that I do not watch the news anymore, I have not turned the television on news-wise since January 2nd, but it's the biggest reason that I tell you that I need you to reach out to me if there's something that you think I need to discuss on this show. I will tell you that I did not know what was going on in Lahaina in Hawaii until I think it was Friday or Saturday. My mom actually said, "You don't know about this?" And I said, "Remember, I'm not watching the news." And she thought, well, maybe you would get a notification. I said, I canceled all notifications on my phone. When I tell you that I stepped away from what I did for 30 years, I mean I stepped away. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to be surrounded with it. I don't want anything negative. But I do want to know if there's something that you think I need to talk about that happened in the news, if you still are watching it, even in the glimpses of it. So let me talk about what I heard this morning. I was listening to KMOX as I was driving in this morning, and Debbie Monterey and Maria Kina, Megan Lynch, Roger Brand. I'm going to tell you what, class acts. I've worked with them for many years when I was with KMOX, and so I did get a chance to hear some of the things and the latest information. If you don't know, like I didn't know, that the wildfires had started, I think it was about a day in that my mom first told me. So it is the deadliest raging wildfire in U.S. history within the century, and 96 people now have lost their lives. I don't know if you've been to Hawaii. If you have, you can share some stories about just absolutely how beautiful it is. I have been to Lahaina, where this happened, and I heard a comment from Oprah Winfrey. Many of you might know, or maybe you don't, that Oprah has had a home in Hawaii for a long, long time, and CBS actually was able to talk with her just outside of a shelter, and she was talking about the resilience of all of those. And one of the reasons that I wanted to talk about it is not so much about the fires themselves, but about community. And one of the things that we stress on this show is if you all come together, that's how we can really thrive. And that is what you need, that spirit of Hawaii. I mean, it's horrible to think that there are still hundreds that are missing. And again, the death toll up to 96 as of what I heard about an hour ago. But it's how people come together. And I heard about this one gentleman that saw the fires coming in and went back into his house, grabbed some things, threw it into his car, and actually rescued a couple of people that were trying to escape the fire on their motorcycle. So again, it's not being so narcissistic and so thinking of yourself that you just take off in that car and say, I'm not going to help anybody. You also don't want to put your life in danger, though, but if there's something that you think that you can do, step out of that comfort zone and do just that. So my heart, my thoughts, my prayers, any healing energy I have going out to all of those that have lost their lives, anyone that is associated with them as a family or a friend, and then all of those that are still missing, because we've all gone through devastating things in our communities. I mean, we think about the tornadoes, we think about the tsunamis, we think about the hurricanes, and how people travel from states to state, maybe even out of the country, to go do what they can do. That is who I'm talking to on this show. It's who you are in the fiber of your being, the heart, the wanting to get out and help in any way you possibly can. You know, one of the things that we always talk about is how the American Red Cross will step forward, and then all of these other organizations and communities that come together. That's it. My mom was talking about how she wants to give money to help those because they're going to be needing it for a long time to come. And that's what I love about my mom, and for everybody that thinks that way. It's not turn the TV on, watch the news, and then move on. It is, what can we do to help them heal? Right now, they're still in the throes of the most dangerous aspect of it, right? It's still burning. My brother and sister-in-law actually went to Hawaii just a couple of days ago. Obviously not that area. They went to the Big Island, but even a friend of mine who has a home in Kauai, she was talking about other fires that are popping up in other parts of Hawaii. So again, hoping that we don't hear this escalate even more than how dangerous and devastating it is already. So again, although I don't want to talk about negativity, this I don't feel fit into that category. This is heartbreaking, and what can we do about it? So if there's something that you think that we can do on this show, please let me know. Maybe we can do some kind of a fundraiser. Maybe we can do, we used to do radiothons and telethons. And if there's something that we can do for those that are suffering in Hawaii, please let me know. Your thoughts, your prayers, I know, are going out to them. If there are family members or friends that you have that have been affected directly, please let us know on this show so that we can help out in any possible way. All right, I wanted to start the show that way. It is 7:06. Now, today is also Financial Health Awareness Day. And it's ironic because we already had my guest lined up for today, but Michelle had reached out to me yesterday and said, hey, look at how ironic this is. So Cynthia Kirkpatrick is from Moneta, and she's going to talk today we'll talk a little bit about financial health, about how important it is to get your kids to understand that. I know when they're in teenagers or they're in their early 20s, they're not thinking about setting themselves up for financial health throughout their older years. They're only thinking of the now. But it's important to get them to think about it in their 20s. I mean, think about if you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s now, if only somebody would have told you to start saving that money when you were in your 20s, right? Just how far along you would be at this point. So we'll talk about financial health awareness, and then more importantly, we're going to talk about the She Lift Project. So Cynthia and her husband, JJ Kirkpatrick, who I had worked with he's an incredible videographer. He worked with me on some projects when I used to work with Ponybird, which is a home for profoundly disabled children and adults. And during the pandemic, of course, as you know, a lot of nonprofits were not able to have their in-person galas. So he came to the house and recorded so that I could do it virtually. Met him, was so impressed with his work, and then got to know Cynthia, his wife. They asked me to be a part of this podcast project that she's doing. So again, it's called She Lift. We're going to talk about that and your financial health. That's coming up in this entire hour. Cynthia in the blue chair when we return. Envita Health and Wellness, where you can feel your best both inside and out. Envita isn't your typical med spa. They're a multi-specialty medical spa and wellness center serving St. Louis and its surrounding areas. They have ketamine for mental health and pain, IV therapy, medical weight loss, and aesthetics treatments. As board-certified anesthesia providers, Envita can ensure that their advanced treatments are provided safely with minimal to no pain. So let Envita take care of you. Call 314-394-0950 to book an appointment or online envitahealthandwellness.com. And welcome back, 7:08, and good morning to you. It's a Monday. Yeah, I know it's a little drizzly out there. Maybe you had some storms overnight, but it's okay. There's always the calm after the storm. We're always looking for the brightness. Again, the show is nothing if it isn't positive. I don't want any negativity, nothing like that. We told you at the very beginning when we launched this, it's all about giving back to the community. It's all about changing your life mentally, physically, spiritually, that whole triangle of life theory, which is something I actually discussed recently with my guest. Let me bring her in. This is Cynthia Kirkpatrick, and we're talking about the She Lift Project. First of all, thanks for coming in early.
Thank you for having me this Monday morning. I appreciate it. And I love your comments there, positivity and helping from within and outside to bring that positive energy.
Right. I mean, we need more of that. There's so much negativity in this world if people allow it. But there's also a lot of positive around us. And sometimes we just have to get out of our comfort zone and see it a little bit more. And maybe sometimes we get the little whispers. People talk about the whispers. And then we get the slap. And then we get a gut punch of like, hello, will you wake up and pay attention to this? Cynthia, so I mentioned before that you are with Moneta. And it's ironic because today is actually Financial Health Awareness Day. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But the main reason I brought you in was to discuss this She Lift project. So take us back to you wanting to come up with this. Like, where did the idea come from?
It came, we talked, you heard you say the pandemic, right? So it came really from the pandemic of everybody being at home, my whole family, 3 kids, my husband, and wanting to get out and be around people and to help people. So a lot of it was just connecting with other women professionals to say, what challenges do we have in our lives that we aren't talking about, and how do we work together to help each other? Mm-hmm. And every time I would go to a lunch or coffee when they opened up that during the pandemic, definitely not violating any rules or regulations as far as health goes, wanting to stay positive there. But as I would come home, my husband, I would talk to him and say, oh, they're facing the same thing. They have the same challenges. And literally he would say, there's something here. The energy you have, the positivity from connecting. You talked about community already, but building that community in a way that women don't often talk about our challenges. And it was his idea. There's a podcast here. I said, yeah, but there's a networking learning group here. He said, yes, but there's a podcast here. And I just kept pushing it off. So finally, as you said, sometimes there's that slap that says, take it, go forward. And that's what we did. Probably about a year and a half ago, started getting logos and started recording a year ago. So it's been a long time coming, but with people like you who joined us on that journey to say, let's, throw some more, let's be the leaders out here and try to throw some more positivity.
Well, and how fun to be able to work with your husband, who is very, very talented. Please tell him I said hi.
I will. It's, I sometimes I sit back and think, what will others think? You're doing this project for women to help women. And at the end of the day, it's really to bring all of us in together. Whether it's age, gender, it doesn't matter. It's that community that transcends all of those different labels that we have. And so what better way to have the story of, women who might be afraid or have a hard time of asking for help. And he or she has this partner in life who says, you can do this, we can do this, let's figure it out and bring this vision to life together. So it's been interesting, fun on so many levels.
Once again, if you're just tuning in, this is Cynthia Kirkpatrick, and we're talking about the She Lift project. So a year and a half ago, you started coming up with all the logos, and then did you know right away that you were going to do it where you actually worked, that's where the podcast was going to be, or did that get kicked around a couple times?
Kicked around a little bit, but I think with the comfort, me starting in this realm, went to school, double majored in accounting and mass communication, but never to the level that you've done. So certainly not as comfortable in front of the camera. Would probably be much easier at a desk running numbers, as I joked with somebody earlier, or just behind the scenes. So I think it was finding a space that was comfortable. It was at our office location, so easy for people to, and I could kind of control it, right? It's my office. Right. I can walk in that space.
So She Lift, so again, it's about empowering women. All too often, and we think about it, whether there's a young girl, and we talk about bullying on this show, we talk about abuse, trauma, things that have happened that have kind of stunted someone's growth. And all it is about lifting each other up again. Too often I hear people say, oh, women are so catty to each other. They tear each other down. They act like they're friends, and as soon as they walk away, they're tearing that person apart. Yes, I do see that happen, but I think too often we don't lift up, as you're talking about in this project, those that aren't that way, those that are truly there to say, I've got you, I'm your cheerleader. And I'm so glad that you've shined the spotlight on that, because I do think that too often you hear men and women both say, oh gosh, you get a group of 3, 4, 5 women together, there's no way. One of them will tear each other down. And again, maybe there's a bad one in the group. And hopefully what we've taught you on this show is don't allow that to happen. Don't allow that to seep in, and walk away from that. Start seeing the signs of that. When you decided to load up the people that were going to play a part in your project, where did you go in your mind of who you wanted to feature?
I think it was about success. So through their success, they've probably faced challenges. Mm-hmm. So how can we learn and grow from that and highlight their success? And people I've come across through my life where it is positivity, and you've seen them lift each other up, mm-hmm. pull others up, male, female, again, age doesn't matter. So it can be easy to focus on the negative. Mm-hmm. And most people go there, and that's understandable. We've been conditioned to that. But how do we then, if we can drown out the negative by bringing up the positive, that was the idea of finding those people that have that positive message, who've helped others and have broken through success in one way, form or fashion.
And you right now, so you launched it, how long ago now? It's just been
probably a couple of weeks, a month. Yeah.
And you have how many episodes?
We have 12 to 13 aired, mm-hmm. and we have 20 to 22 that are recorded and ready to go.
Another 20 to 22 besides?
No,
all total. You've been busy.
Yes.
And I love the fact, and this is the standards that you and both JJ have, is let's do these. We're going to get them really well done before we ever launch this. Because we recorded this Well, it was before my birthday because I was watching it last night and I said, oh, I heard myself say I'm going to be 52. And I was like, I also laughed because I can tell that I had either sinuses or something because I was listening to my voice. And I'm like, oh yeah, I must have gone there and had a cold or something. There you go. So mine is episode 9. It's the mental, physical, and spiritual transformation, which is everything that we talk about on this. What stood out to you on our podcast together?
Your journey and everything you've been doing along the way. I think people will see you and say, oh, Monica Adams, she's been on the radio, she's been on TV, but now she's doing this transform. No, 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 no. You've been in this for a long time, helping people, and it really is that radiation from within. So you can go to the gym, you can work out, but that's maybe less than half the battle, right? What are we working on both internally, what we feed our body, but also what we tell ourselves and what we allow others to tell us. So that conversation about that whole process. And honestly, you had so many great things in that podcast that it was hard to pick and share. There we are right
We
there.
had a lot of fun. We laughed
Right.
together. There were some tugging on your heartstring moments. And I appreciate that your husband was so sweet. He said, Monica, just like Michelle does for me, so you moderate during the podcast, he was moderating, writing stuff down. And he said, I normally will like star here and there. And he said he had just pages and pages of aha moments that he thought was really inspirational. And that really meant the world to me.
Well, and you could tell sitting there, and again, not my professional job by any means, but that everything you were saying was coming from the heart. It was unscripted, it was open, and it was real. And I'm sure some of that's your job and how great you are at what you've been doing for forever, but most of that's just you. And so how can you not come up with good content and things to share when we have somebody like you sitting in the chair?
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's one of the reasons, Cynthia, that we named the show what we named it. I wish more people would be real. And I think that's a big part of your project is women, stop putting on so many masks. Stop being afraid of not showing who you really are, your authentic self, because people might really love you, right? Did you hear that in other women that you sat down with? Were they afraid of being who they really wanted to be, or as I was, and I told you, squashed, pushed in the corner, and very easily could have been left there, but somehow had the resilience to come through? I'm sure you probably heard that thread throughout every woman you spoke with.
Yeah, absolutely. And something you said earlier was we're conditioned or we're told early on what women are. Women will talk about each other behind their back. Women will this, or women will that, or women should be this, or look at pictures out on the news or the magazines and they're all airbrushed. We don't allow women to be women, and since an early age. So I think as women, we're finally figuring out, hold up, we can write our own script here and we can write our own story. And we're still figuring that out, but I think we've accomplished so much in such a short amount of time. So you're right. One woman who started a law firm just talked about that. She wasn't the loudest in the room. She wasn't this. She talked about trying things on and seeing what really felt right for her. And then once you do, really leaning into your authenticity and being that real person, that's what shines through.
So we're going to talk about the ones that are out there already, and as she said, about 20 to 22 total that you'll be able to see. We're going to take a break, and we'll let you know where you can see this podcast, how you can receive the message, how important it is. Again, the She Lift Project. More with Cynthia Kirkpatrick when we return.
It's the icing on the cake.
The final brush stroke.
The finishing touches make all the difference in your home, too.
Have fun and get started at carolhouse.com/room planner.
With thousands of accessories in our 3.5-acre showrooms.
Get your picture perfect room and the lowest prices in the country at Carol House.
Because you like nice things.
Of course, it's great to get outside and enjoy the warm weather, but when it's time to relax indoors, be sure your home stays cool with equipment and service from my friends at Aldon. 24-hour emergency service available. At Aldon, it's their commitment to continue providing above and beyond HVAC service for all of their customers. They truly care about the air you breathe. Call them today at 314-567-5585 or on the web, aldon.com. That's al-don.com, 314-567-5585. And welcome back. It is 7:20. Happy Monday to you. If you're brand new to the show, well, welcome aboard. We've been doing this since March. Where have you been? I'm just kidding. I love the fact that so many people have found the show organically. They're just scrolling by and they see that we're live, or they're being told by family and friends, not only in St. Louis and maybe just in Southern Illinois, but now we're getting people that are telling us, like, hey, I'm watching it in this state, or I'd love to reach in other countries, because that's what this is about. We didn't start this to just do this for our immediate area. This is to change the world on a massive scale. And we're doing that with guests that we bring on board, like my friend here, Cynthia. We've been talking about the She Lift project, and I was very honored to be a part of this. She's already launched several of the podcasts that are out there for you already. So before we go on, where can people find these?
The easiest place is to go to the website, the She Lift Project, and there's a .com, and there's a podcast page there. You can find the audio podcasts everywhere. You find audio, Apple, Spotify, and I'll share that this is where my expertise ends, the technical side, and that's where the husband takes over. However, also on YouTube, there's video that goes along with it.
Yes, and that's what I love, because there's a lot of people who only do the audio side, and I was like, no, you're missing out. Just like this, I knew from day one that we wanted to do the video and the audio as well, and I'm glad you're on all the audio podcast platforms, because that's when you really reach outside of our immediate area. But I want people to share this. So the She Lift Project, do you have the "the" in front of it?
It's She Lift Project.
Okay, SheLiftProject.com, and we'll give you more of that. So what stood out to you from each one of these? And let's break them down. So your very first episode was what?
It was Tara Kinney, who started her own business, Atomic Revenue. She recently moved to Boston, but talked about her growing up and how some of these things were there as a youth, and what her parents taught her. And the challenge is actually an interesting part of her story is how she had been in the room with men for so long that the first time she was on a board or in a room with all women, she felt uncomfortable, and what she did to navigate that and why. So it's a pretty, I was kind of shocked when she said that, honestly.
It's incredible to see how far women have come, and look, let's look generations ago when women never were out of the home raising the children, cooking, cleaning, etc. And then suddenly you find your voice, and finding your voice little by little had others watching because you were leading and they were following, and then they decided to lead as well. And it's just how far we've come, but I really still believe that we have just had a brushstroke, don't you think?
It's been 100 years or more where, as you said, women weren't outside the home. You couldn't get a job. If you were, it was when the men were at war. They came back, couldn't get a credit card on your own, a bank account on your own. So there was so much, even in recent history, where we were still blocked. And I think what you said earlier, a lot of it was, okay, we'll let you have some jobs. We'll let you go higher in the careers, but only a few of you. So it did play out, I think, some, I don't know what the right words, holding each other down, backstabbing, whatever, to get ahead. But I really think now we've realized our power in that positive community collaboration where you can really bring all together and upward and get everybody on board with us. Like my husband helping me with the podcast. It's not about men versus women or this or that. It's how do we get the best out of each other by working together and supporting each other.
I'm glad you just talked about men. So what I would like to know is, will they hear this and say, oh, it's She Lift Project, I don't need to listen to it? That's not the case. Many men, we say this a lot, you need to pay attention because it might help you in your relationships to understand us a little bit better. What would you say to the guys about listening to your podcast or watching your podcast?
I would find it probably difficult for any male to say they don't have a female in their life somewhere, somehow, whether it's a mom, a sister, a child, a partner, in work. And so if you want to be a better communicator and a better partner with any of those women in your lives, I think listening to our stories will be helpful and just open eyes and ears. I will say my husband sitting in the corner has already said he's learned so much from, maybe we talk about it off to the side over a little bit of coffee. Most of the time, us women, we don't talk about it at all. So I think getting these stories out, there's going to be a connection to something somewhere. So bring everybody along. And I see it honestly down the road, having men join us on the podcast to talk about, you're a great leader of women. I had an amazing soccer coach in high school, and he coached both women and men. And most people can't do that.
Sure.
but he could. So I could see somebody like him coming on and talking about how do you help people be the best versions of themselves and give the best that they can, and male, female, or whatever, if that's part of your role, and I'm sure it is, then you probably need to start listening to us.
And vice versa.
Yes.
Right? We need to listen to them. But I think one of the things that men can do most is when a woman is feeling that they're faltering, or they've been told you're not going to get this job, you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not thin enough, all these things that unfortunately they take in and they start believing. That's where they have to be the support system and raise them up, lift them up. That they're the incredible support system. So I think as you hear these stories, and I would encourage you to listen to them together and say, honey, do you go through those things? Because sometimes that's how you start the conversation. When you talk about us not talking about it, because notoriously women take care of everybody else before they take care of themselves. And have to, we talk about guys, we had all things men last week, and it is trying to get men to go to the doctor. One of the most difficult things because they don't want to. So we're always lifting them up, but then it needs to be in return the men to say, wow, you know what? You're taking care of the kids. You're taking care of me. You're off doing, like Wonder Woman, you're doing everything. And I don't think I ever ask, what can we do for you? And so as you hear these stories, maybe you go back home and maybe you're going to be able to heal relationships because of them listening. And I encourage that. Even though it's called the She Lift Project, it's for everybody. I hope kids listen to it as well and learn early on. What aha moments stood out to you from this project so far?
I think everybody has a story and they have something to share. And just when you think your story isn't important enough or won't connect with someone, it does. One story that came back to us recently was an attorney who came in and talked about her career, and she talked about being a female litigator. She can't make women cry on the stand, or can't make anybody really cry on the stand. She has to wear certain things that men don't have to think about or worry about. Oddly enough, or funny enough, whatever you want to call it, another woman that we know that we've talked to on the side of the soccer field, basketball fields, we've seen at school, another mom, she reached out to her and said, your podcast was amazing. Why have we never talked about this all those years? And our girls just graduated 8th grade. All those years we were together, why did we never talk about this? And that was just, this is why we're doing what we're doing, to bring awareness and community.
Sure. So we talked about your first episode. Let's go through them so everybody knows what's coming up if they haven't had a chance to see these yet. What was number 2?
Oh, now you're going to put me on the spot. There's been we started recording last September.
Yeah. Oh, last September?
Yeah, 2 a month.
Wow.
So I know Kate Sanders took over a family business, but was an international businesswoman prior to that. So she talks about navigating that and having a mentor who put her on the spot, said, you're giving this presentation at Walmart. And we talk about, if you had known that ahead of time, would you have been able to do it? She said, probably not. So that a lot of women have said, I made this leap. Caitlin Murphy talks about going to China and getting the bug for global logistics. And so much she didn't know that had she known ahead of time, she would have probably not done and achieved what she's achieved. We talked about partners. Stephanie Jones started the Jones Family Law Office, and she talks about her husband, who's an amazing partner. She couldn't do it. So she recommends finding that perfect partner in your life who can help create the vision for the both of you. Trying to think, so many great ones. Whitney Kenter's coming out tomorrow. She left wealth management, actually, and accounting to go into companies and help transform their culture, both the business culture, but the individual leaders and their culture. And so another fraud accountant, she talks about going out and of course, helping people, but the energy in your life. What energy are you taking in and giving out, and how that impacts your experiences, your relationships, all of that. So there's a lot of threads through them, but they're also so varied because all of our experiences are varied.
Do you have people that were in your project that you've spoken with so far that have said, which is what I told you about it in the one we did together, that have said they almost stopped because someone told them they couldn't do something, and then all of a sudden look how far they came? Yes?
Absolutely. Said, especially for women, oh, you want to have a child and start your own business? Not a chance. And luckily that person said, forget it, I'll show you, I can do it, and she did. But a lot of those along the way who've had something come in their way, and they were able to overcome, whether it was through their own mental strength or having that right support around them.
Often we do a hashtag here on this show that is let them watch, or like I always say, watch me. Because, when we launched the show, my mom was in the chair and I said, Mom, what do you want to tell all those people? They told me I couldn't. And she said, well, look at her now. She said something like, if my baby wants to do something and I'm still her baby, you forever, right? Your children will forever be your babies. She said, if my baby girl wants to do something, she puts her mind to it. That's it. We have to put our minds to it, and we have to not let other people have power. In my life coaching, I say that all the time. Why would we want to be stunted in our growth from the people who who hated us, tried to tear us down, who were normally, don't you agree, it comes from jealousy and insecurities, Cynthia?
Judgment, comparison, all of those, yes.
It's unfortunate, but we have one of the books, and I'm actually going to look through and figure out which one we want to do, the 100 Days to Freedom, and one of them is shame. It's so easy to say shame on her or shame on him, but shame on doesn't get us anywhere. It is trying to break free from that and say, no, let's just have a discussion. Let's say, why would you not believe that I could do this? We still are, and you mentioned this about generations ago, we're still climbing that ladder. We're still far away of where we need to be with regards to, let's talk about finances, about salaries. It's still men's salary and then women. Why? I mean, we're talking 100 plus years of that growth. And yes, we are getting presidents of companies and CEOs of companies, etc. But it still doesn't make any sense why a man, just because he's a man, are making more. And women just have to keep fighting for themselves.
Well, that book you have right there, Know Your Value. Mm-hmm. It's very hard. Women are used to giving to others, taking care of others first. And at the end of the day, there's very little left. And that's just part of who we're supposed to be. So knowing your value and that value within, which I think there isn't maybe as much value placed in that role, that position, that caretaker. Mm-hmm. And so either you're not paid a salary, so you don't see that value equivalent, but or it's conditioned. So I think a lot of it is us building that strength and empowerment from within to say, I have value. It's worth, if I'm doing the same job, it's worth the same, and then talking about it. And I think giving the tools, right? A lot of what I've learned over the last couple of years is how we're raised and back away from communication, mm-hmm. challenging communication. Mm-hmm. So when we're young, just get along. Don't take that from your sibling or your friend. If you don't have anything to say nice, don't say anything at all. So I think we've been conditioned then to not speak up. And so when the time comes that we don't know how to do it, and we're afraid to do it wrong. Sure. So we don't. So a lot of it is just communicating and learning how to communicate.
Well, and that is one of the biggest things, is finding your voice or speaking your truth. Anybody that works in any type of energy work on the holistic side, the homeopathic side, it is literally called speak your truth, right? Find your voice. I always thought it was, over the years, that gut instinct of, I bet you I should be making more, or I should be getting this job, but there's somebody up above that's trying to hold me back from that. And it's that gut instinct of follow that. Don't just let it go. Follow that and maybe start asking questions. And many times, I look at my own career, many times I had no idea that I should have been making this, and I did this. However, yes, we all want money. We want to have a nice life, but it doesn't mean that the more and more money you have, the happier you are. We've seen it. People who have millions and millions and millions of dollars, they just tear each other apart, and they have very unhealthy relationships. So just because they have money doesn't mean that they're happy. And in your field, you're helping people with their finances, but it doesn't mean that they're all happy. Whether somebody comes in and says, I only have $1,000, Cynthia, what can you do with this for me? And then you have people who have millions of dollars. And if they look and say, oh, I wish I was this person, we have to stop wishing we were somebody else and start making the best of us, right?
And I think social media, unfortunately, has made that worse, comparing the veneer, mm-hmm. what we think we see versus going behind that top layer and mm-hmm. saying what's really going on. And it's that competition. And I think if we think we have more, we think we'll be happier. And that bar just keeps getting moved. Well, I'm not quite happy yet. So one more thing. Mm-hmm. It's that materialism or whatever it is, when really at the end of the day, it's about figuring out, I think, who we are, what drives us, what our core values are, and then trying to align with that. So whether it's, traveling, whether it's spending time with family, it's whatever the goal that brings you inner joy and peace, That's what we should be focusing on. What's around our lives is bringing that to us versus kind of, well, I see somebody else going on this trip and they're happy, or they have this new car and they're happy. So that must be what I need and want to be happy, when most often it isn't.
No, it's the chaos. You're not really present. You're not in the now. You're not understanding. You're not aware of what really brings happiness. You brought up one of the number one words, which is family. We need to spend more time with it. You know, when we leave this earth, you're not going to remember the Mercedes that you bought. You're not going to remember the house. You're going to remember the memories that filled that home. And if they're not good right now, that's what this show's about, is start working on yourself to start making you happier. I always say, though, on this show, Cynthia, and with my clients, who is the number one person in the equation of your life? First and foremost, you. Then, if you're happy, everyone around you starts, you're like, oh, well, how come my relationship's happier with my husband or my partner or, my wife, my kids, my parents? Well, probably because you started working on yourself. And you probably heard a lot of that. One of the people I know that you featured, she is behind these shoes, Claire Flowers. What did you learn from her? I mean, you've been friends with her for a while, but what did you learn from your talk with her?
And my husband, JJ, even brought this up. Again, so much good information there, but she talked about really staying narrowly focused. So she thought she had to be this or introduce this line to be successful. And when she decided to choose what she does well and to focus on that, yes, she can layer things in later. But when others were telling her to jump here, add this, go too fast, she realized that that was pulling back from the success of what she wanted to do and focus on, but also her joy of it. And so learning to listen to yourself, kind of, you don't have to jump too far, too fast to be successful. I probably really redefining what does success mean to you and how to do it well your way versus what everybody else has either done or tells you you should do.
And if you don't know Claire, by the way, Claire and I first met when I was in television. And so anybody that watched me on Channel 2, you would always see me purposely, maybe you didn't know that, I purposely would stand by the desk that had a clear part of the desk. And then I would purposely cross my legs and kick them over so you could see her shoes. And everyone would be like, oh my gosh, I love your shoes. And I said, yeah, it's a St. Louis girl. I just love her story about working in New York and then constantly, messing up this heel, that heel. And she's like, why can't anybody just make a good black, nice pump, which is how she started with the Claire. And they all have names. And these, by the way, I wore them on purpose. These are the Monicas, named after me and her grandma. I think her grandma's named Monica as well. So she's done beautiful shoes, and then she's done some bags and clothes and stuff over the years. She actually works in the same place where I do my custom work with Bespoke. Love what she's doing, and I listen to hers, and I just love where she's come. But very easy to take your mind in so many different places because everybody has their opinions. And when you're a businesswoman, you have to believe in your product, and you have to keep forging forward. It's very easy to say, because again, everybody's got these opinions. Oh, you should probably be doing this. You should do this. And then it just gets all cluttered, and then your business drops.
And she had people along the way or obstacles come up to say this can never happen or I can't get this done. And she found a way. She kept researching, looking, made deals to say, well, if I come here and do this, you'll give me that. And there were deals along the way, people I don't want to say propping her up, but the right people at the right time came along that really helped her navigate this path that it's not her background. That's not what she went to school for. And she actually says maybe getting that business degree was better than getting a degree in design because so much of it is navigating the business.
Oh, 100%. It's 7:40. I'm going to take a break. We mentioned today is also Financial Health Awareness Day. So I do want to talk about just a little bit with Cynthia. You've been with Moneta for how long?
10 years.
10 years. Congratulations on that. One of the things I mentioned before you came in is how important it is to get those that are younger to start thinking about how important it is to have that nest egg and start putting some things away later on. I know that when I was younger, if I hadn't been told this, I wouldn't be able to be, from financial health, which is what we're talking about, you can't get to 30, 40, 50, 60 and just make the decision at that point, oh, I think I might want to start putting money away. And well, look at all the years before, 20, 30, 40 years, why it used to be, and I don't know if parents or grandparents do this anymore, but one of the things that I loved is different aspects or would be started for the kids when they were young. Oh, I'm going to put this away. And, then you'd have kids start to grow up and go, Well, I want it now, right? You hear that all the time. I want it now. I don't care about a trust fund. I don't care about, well, yes, but you will later on in life. Or if it took care of a scholarship for them for school. All great things, by the way. Parents, if you stop doing it, go back to it because they will thank you later in life. But we're going to talk about financial health. We're going to get some tips about what you can do if you're younger, just to start. And then if you have not done that and you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, maybe some recommendations that Cynthia can give you. So more with Cynthia when we return.
Warm weather, sand beaches, and boats galore. It's not Florida, it's a Lake of the Ozarks. Florida Direct Palm Trees brings tropical flair to your patios, docks, and yards. From a few feet all the way to 25 feet, there are palm trees for every property. Florida Direct also provides palm tree potting soil, palm fertilizer, large decorative pots, and a wide selection of locally grown tropical flowers and plants to add the perfect accent to your tropical paradise. Florida Direct Palm Trees, bringing paradise to your patio for 14 plus years.
7:41, and yes, we want to thank all of our incredible sponsors. And I had a wonderful brunch meeting yesterday with someone who said, Monica, I'm thinking of having a resurgence of my business, because he was very, very well known for a long, long time, had retired. Now he's thinking of coming back out of retirement, which retirement's important. We're going to talk about in just a second. But a wonderful meeting, and I can't say just yet, but I'm super excited about what is to come. So that is reminding me, again, if you know of someone that you want to be on this show and you think that they would be an incredible sponsor, reach out to us, info@TheRealMonicaAdams.com, just like Marilyn did. Marilyn, who regularly comments on our show, she said, hey, Monica, I've got someone I want you to talk to. And I love the fact that she gave this to me. This is not coffee or tea. It's actually my bubbly. Cynthia, I'm doing this on a regular basis. I'm trying to get bubbly as a sponsor because I drink them every day. It's the organic side of me. This is the blackberry bubbly, but I poured it in here. So Kathy Kilo Peterson, State Farm agent, kkilo.com is her website, and her phone number is 636-561-6460. There you go. Kathy Kilo Peterson. She is a proud sponsor. She's actually sponsoring our segment today. So thank you, Kathy. And Kathy and I met. We talked about some neat ideas coming up about a walk in September. It is actually a worldwide walk, but you're actually meditating. Do you meditate, Cynthia?
I do and I don't. I think in the official form of meditation, I don't. But every morning, this was part of my journey 3 years ago, I run out. So I would have been running this morning, but you're so bubbly early on in the morning that I got here early. I'll run later. But that's sort of my meditation. Go outside, get some exercise, be by myself. I love my family, but during COVID, it was mom, 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 mom. And my husband's very active, but it was mom. So being by myself, that's my meditation, listening to audiobooks, mindset, energy, learning, communication, leadership.
Well, one of the things that Kathy was telling me at this breakfast meeting we had last week is about this doctor that does, I guess he does a lot of different things with, like, holistic and homeopathic medicine and functional medicine, but he is doing the first ever, and hopefully it's a regular thing, of a worldwide walk day, but it's a meditation. So people actually will put headphones on, and we learned you should only wear one to be aware on the other side. You probably know this as a runner. That's the importance of the safety aspect. But everybody all over the world walking together for 45 minutes. And she actually picked a location in Chesterfield. So you're going to hear about that. So Kathy, thank you, by the way, for the idea and for the incredible State Farm agent that you are. We were talking about Hawaii at the beginning. And when you have those devastating things that happen, that's when you need someone like her that truly cares, not just like going through the motions of your insurance agency, but she truly cares. She said sometimes she beats Red Cross to things and then really gets to know the families and goes deep with that. So Kathy, thank you, by the way, for what you do. So we're talking, I mentioned a little bit about retirement. People aren't thinking about that when they're in their 20s. So what can you say to get those that are younger that will listen to this now or listen later to start, even because they don't look at their $100 doing anything. They're like, well, I don't even have $100. I've got 25. And then what would you say to them?
I would say the biggest asset that's available to people is time. And probably the one resource we can't create more of in general, right? Mm-hmm. So time, think about it, those who are younger, assuming, and this is where I'm going to try not to get too technical and boring in my world, but sometimes I get too excited. But, you think about a general life expectancy. Well, people who are younger have more time. Mm-hmm. So time is the best asset. And one of your questions, or the specific question you had there, is what matters. And maybe we relate it to something else, right? So you talk about mindset coaching and exercise. Well, every day, that what you eat or what you do exercise-wise matters. It builds upon itself. And it's not like one day I'm going to decide to work out an hour and that's going to fix everything.
Right.
No, it's every day. It's 20 minutes, whatever it might be, building upon itself to get to that goal. Or James Clear in Atomic Habits talks about it. It's at 1% better every day. And I would say let's layer that over to financial planning and investing. It's that little bit every day. So that at the end of the year, you're 365% better. Those 1% add up. But you can get into the way those numbers work. But maybe that's a easier way to explain it, is that little bit every day compounds on itself, and years down the road, that's when you start to see the fruits of your labor.
Right. Well, Cynthia, I know we all talk about living in the moment and living for the now, and some people might do the flip side and go, well, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be here in 5, 10, 20. You've probably heard that before, right? I don't know that I'm going to be here in the retirement age. I just want to spend my money right now. But you kind of have to split your brain and say, live in the now, yes, be in the moment, but let's hope that you're going to be around for the retirement years and beyond. You're actually going to be able to enjoy your time so you're not working forever.
Yeah, I think that's like everything in your life. If you didn't plan for tomorrow, for next year, the years beyond, your legacy, whatever it might be, it would be easy just to make those potentially harming decisions in the moment. But if we really think about that long term, and everybody's long term is different, so it's hard to just give one blanket piece of advice. You're right, there are some people who, for whatever reason, aren't around as long as we'd hope. There's some that live. I had a great aunt who lived to 107 not long ago. So it's like life. You have to plan for those contingencies. And I think, again, every person's path or experience is different. So you have to plan for that. But it's that what if, I should have, could have, would have. If you don't start laying some of the groundwork today, that's what you're going to be living in, I think.
Well, I'm glad that there wasn't I mean, again, I laugh. My husband always laughs. He goes, oh my gosh, you guys, every time I turn around, you say, it's this day, it's that day. There's an international this. And I said, I know. But it just happened to be ironic that we were having Cynthia in today and we could blend this into the show today. What about the people who haven't done anything? And now let's say that they're 50 already, right? Or maybe 55, and they're looking at only having 10 years left. And they think, well, can I really do something? That's 10 years. You can change a lot in 10 years.
It's never too late at any moment, right, with anything in your life. So, yeah, a lot can be done, a lot of level setting, goal setting, figuring out how to get there. But, again, I would say if you never get started, then you may be working longer, or you may not get to where you want to be, even if it's... I bring this back to the podcast. We talk about people in the podcast who in their 50s, their 60s, find their passion and their calling. There's one that's coming up soon. She's actually my sister, but when we looked back, she does broadcasting with STL City now. That's not what her original career was. So it's never too late. Oprah, people that you talk about that have done something for so long, it's never too late. Whatever it is that your goal is or your passion is, it's never too late to start planning, especially in the financial world.
Oh, you'd be amazed at the people that you follow, or the people who have made headlines that are celebrities or are actors and actresses. Maybe they're athletes. They didn't actually start what we know them for, sometimes until they're 50, 55, 60. I've seen one that was 70. I love to see that story pop up on social media sometimes, and it'll say, did you know so-and-so didn't start until this? And you're like, what? No way. Well, but it makes you realize that you can reinvent yourself at any given point. Instead of just going through the motions of life and being miserable, why? I mean, it was so funny when I left Channel 5 back in January, Cynthia. I had so many people go, oh my gosh, you're retiring. You're too young to retire. I'm like, retiring? I'm just getting started. Watch out, world, right? It's that kind of thing. We talk obviously a lot about health and fitness. I know you're big into, we both played soccer. You're a big runner, working out. But financial health is one thing that I don't think people ever put. I talk about the triangle of life, and somewhere within that, the spirit and the mind have to go into the financial side. Isn't it one of the biggest problems in relationships is money? And it can tear you apart or it can lift you up.
What were you taught as a child growing up about money? Was it something that was talked about, wasn't talked about? You talked about some of the different feelings and some of the books that you have over there. Shame. Is there shame around money, whether you have it or you don't have it, how you use it? So I think it's that origin, family of origin, what you've been taught from the beginning, and then when you come together with somebody, right, how do you address money? What are your goals and values and vision? And that eventually those feelings come out one way or another. But that's part of why I really got into what I do. I mean, I started out in public accounting. I worked in another company for a while behind the scenes. And when Moneta came up, it was, I can really make a difference in people's lives and impact them for the positive. And so it really became about, that help and diving in and figuring that out. And again, being able to bring that out to so many people. But you think about going back to high school, grade school, even still today, my kids are in those grades right now. They're not really getting in-depth education on finances. And I'm not in education. I'm not a teacher. There's a reason. So bless those who are, and I'm not trying to change it. But I do think it's one area that we need to bring more education and focus to, because it impacts all of our lives, not just somebody who's in, the media or this or that. It affects all of us.
Absolutely.
And so that should be a basic building block. For some reason, we've shied away from it for so long.
I agree with you, and I think I said it about a month and a half ago. And when I was at Channel 2, I did this story about all these kids, and they were learning what I think are the most important facets of life. And one of them had to do, of course, we don't do a lot with checkbooks, but they were learning how to balance a checkbook, right? I mean, that's not something that was taught to us. I mean, parents had to teach, and you hope that they were teaching it properly. But the financial side is the thing that's going to keep you going, and you've got to nurture it. You've got to fuel it, just like you got to fuel your body as well. So again, we're talking about a couple different things today. One is the financial health awareness and just being aware of it, and maybe start talking about it. If you are looking for someone, or do you still taking people? Or
Yes.
Help?
Yeah, we help people across all.
But you yourself, if somebody wanted to
Yes.
come to you, yes?
Specific, yeah.
How would they get in touch with you?
They could go to Moneta. I have our team, the Heffernan team out there has their own page. So as a senior advisor at Moneta, they can find me that way.
Okay, perfect. But to bring it back to the She Lift Project, again, you can go to sheliftproject.com. Several episodes that are out there. Before we wrap up, any of them that made you tear up and cry or be moved through so many different emotions, give you chills?
Oh my gosh. I mean, there are times where, specifically yours, talking about the, almost being told you're going to die. Mm-hmm. I mean, and then having the strength to say, no, I'm not. And your mom, no, she's not.
Not my daughter. Are you done talking? I'm out of this room.
And just, I think some of the struggles obviously that stands out, but just the struggles along the way where you see little bits of it and you're like, I've been there too. But then the joy to see somebody overcome and persevere in whatever journey they were meant to.
Kind of therapeutic for you? Because I find this show to be very therapeutic. After each and every one, I'll go and journal. And do you journal?
I do.
Good. So journaling is a huge thing. Taking that out of your mind and writing it down is just a really powerful thing that will help you along. But doing this show, and anybody that does a podcast, I think you would be lying if you didn't say, oh, absolutely. I get done and think, wow, that's an aha moment. I need to, incorporate that into my life. What do you want as we wrap up here? What do you want people to after they listen to these episodes, to take away? What's the big takeaway?
That everyone has a story and a journey, and it's going to be different for everyone, and that's okay. And at the end of the day, belief in yourself, working from the inside out, and trying to do that, and it's a muscle, right? So we have to train it, and not everybody's perfect, but trying to do it through positivity, helpfulness, collaboration, and picking others up along the way, so that in turn, they want to pick you up too. But maybe there's a moment that somebody sees and says, that's just like what I'm going through. And if either I'll reach out to that person, or if she can do it, I can do it too. And we can raise the bar that way.
Yeah. So again, there's several episodes that are already out, but when the 20 to 22 are finally aired, it'll take you through how long?
A couple more months. So every 2 weeks we air a new one, and then we're going back, and as we launch 12 to start, we're going back and highlighting some of those again. So for a while, every week you'll see it, and then every 2 weeks will be new ones.
Is it the first and third Tuesday of every month?
Yes, I think that's right.
Yeah.
Nah.
I think so. First and third Tuesday of every month. SheLiftProject.com. And if you want to see the one that she and I sat down and did, it's episode 9. And it's a little bit more of my life, what I've been through. She was a great interviewer, so I got to give you props, even though you say this isn't your field, but you did a wonderful job pulling things out of people. There you go. It's the mental, the physical, and spiritual transformation. It's that whole triangle of life theory that I talk about. So we did that again earlier, and then it just launched in July. So maybe you've seen it already. If not, if you haven't been aware of this project that she's doing, please support her. SheLiftProject.com. And again, many that I want you to listen to, but number 9 in particular, so you can see us together. All right, I always let one of my guests that are in the blue chair pick the 100 days to freedom. So we have shame, depression, anger, overeating, fear, and anxiety. Which would you like to choose?
Let's do fear and anxiety.
All right, everybody. So as we always do, we wrap up the show with 100 Days to Freedom. We're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we're going to wrap up with your daily devotional. Envita Health and Wellness, where you can feel your best both inside and out. Envita isn't your typical med spa. They're a multi-specialty medical spa and wellness center serving St. Louis and its surrounding areas. They have ketamine for mental health and pain, IV therapy, medical weight loss, and aesthetics treatments. As board-certified anesthesia providers, Envita can ensure that their advanced treatments are provided safely with minimal to no pain. So let Envita take care of you. Call 314-394-0950 to book an appointment or online envitahealthandwellness.com. 7:56, and as we're wrapping up here on a Monday, thank you again for being a part of the show. Let's see. Terry just said, open your heart and mind to all, but especially recognize yourself. Be kind and love you first. What did I say? It's up to you to make yourself the most important person in your equation. Thank you for the great partnership with Kathy Kilo Peterson. Well, you're welcome. Thank you for connecting us, and you're right. She does align with my mission. Thank you. Hard lessons to be learned. Thank you, Monica and Cynthia. Great topic. I love this show and the positivity awareness that it brings every day. Absolutely. Again, continue to spread the word that we are doing this and that we're here for you Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. So Cynthia chose 100 Days to Freedom. Our friend Stephen Arterburn, we got to get you on our show, by the way. The daily devotional, this one's about fear and anxiety. And there we go. She's going to join me in just listening and receiving the message. So fixed on truth. And now, dear brothers and sisters, one final thing. Fix your thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. Think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. Keep putting into practice all that you've learned and received from me, everything you heard from me and saw me doing. Then the God of peace will be with you. That's actually from Philippians 4, verses 8 through 9. So sometimes when you feel anxious or fearful, your thoughts can swirl around the worst case scenario and all the questions of what could possibly happen. We fix our minds on the endless possibilities of what could go wrong. Cynthia said this, rather than, well, what could go right? If you have experienced life at all, you know that things can go wrong sometimes. And awareness of that creates what? More fear, more anxiety. If all you do, though, is keep a running list of all the things that could go bad, you'll be overwhelmed. Instead of putting your head in the clouds or the sand, it's sensible to look at the risks, or you can even look at the challenges in the situation you're facing. Consider what this passage of the scripture says. Fix your thoughts on what's true, honorable, right, pure, lovely, admirable, excellent, and worthy of praise. What a list that is, by the way. This will keep you from letting your anxious thoughts take over. A time when you do not feel pressured by anxiety and fear, that's a good moment to practice refocusing your thoughts. Remind yourself of something very simple, like, quote, God loves me. True. Or I'm healthy, and God is worthy of praise. Be creative. Write them down. We just talked about journaling as you put into practice fixing your thoughts. John Gordon said, adversity is not a dead end, but a detour to a better outcome than you can imagine. C.S. Lewis, relying on God has to begin all over again every day as if nothing had yet been done. And Norman Vincent Peale said, if you worry, you're a worrier because your mind is saturated with worry thoughts. To counteract these, mark every passage in your Bible that speaks of faith, speaks of hope, and speaks of courage. And today's prayer, Lord, help me to fix my mind on the good in each situation, knowing that any difficulties are in your hands. I pray that my mind will be calmed, knowing you are with me every day. Amen to that. And how interesting that the next one, God, you're kind of funny, is lifted up. The She Lift Project. You're funny. All right, everybody. Thank you so very much for being a part of the show again today. Don't make it your last one. Make it just the beginning of many days that we will have together. Remember, don't keep all this to yourself. Please share, like, follow. Let everybody know that we're doing this, that together we can change the world. You just have to believe in that. And remember, every day you can go out and you can be anything that you want to be. But before you do anything, be kind. God bless you all.